For the past 3/4 of a century, the 98th Army Band has served the Army and the American people through music. The 40th Engineer Regiment Band, which later became the 98th Army Band, was activated in Missouri in 1942 at the cusp of the United States' involvement in World War II. Their mission was to bring music support to the training camps throughout the country. The popular music of the time was swing and big band, which was meant to boost morale and bring a sense of home to the soldiers overseas. By 1944, the band was redesignated as the 98th Ground Forces Band and sent overseas, which included soldiers and musicians like Joseph Falardo.
This is my grandfather, Joseph Falardo. He was drafted in 1944 during World War II. He was still in high school. An officer came in and was looking for volunteers. They were looking for musicians, and he had been a musician all of his life, playing saxophone and clarinet, flute, and he tried out, and he was accepted. Because of that, he got to see all kinds of places. He got to see the Vatican and Paris, and play with musicians, world-class musicians, that he would never have gotten to play with. He played all kinds of shows, and he sent a lot of pictures back home. In fact, he was a musician. The 98th saved his life.
The 98th Army Band has had a long and rich history here at Fort Rucker and in the Wiregrass area. As music has been a part of the United States Army, the 98th Army Silver Wings Band has been a part of Army aviation for the last 62 years.
I came here September 1960. We were in a chapel, 3rd Avenue Chapel was our rehearsal hall, but they just shuffled us around from one place to the other.
Nothing is more rich in history for Army bands than the sounds of a marching band in a parade, showcasing the pride and respect for our country.
We go out to these little parades that they'd have in the different local communities, and of course the band led the parade, except that the actual leaders were the horse riders. And we did the different parades down in Dothan, the Peanut Festival, and the beauty pageant. We had, like I say, just the basic number to get by with. We could fall out sometime with 16 men on the parade field, which was a good-sized band for us.
By 1967, the 98th Army Band finally had a rehearsal hall that they could call their own.
When I think about this band and its relationship to Fort Rucker and Army aviation, I'm reminded of our shared history. While Army aviation can trace its origins back well over a century, and while music has been a part of the Army since its inception, modern Army aviation and the 98th Army Band arrived at Fort Rucker at roughly the same time in the mid-50s. So to me, we're really like two kids adopted by the Wiregrass community who have had the chance to grow up together, to mature together, and to establish identities that are simultaneously distinct and intertwined. Decades of Army aviators and decades of musicians have served here together, have walked this post together, they've enjoyed this area together, and they've been able to call this place home.
Among its many assignments, the Silver Wings Band lends color and dignity to its traditional ceremonial function when performing change of command ceremonies.
To have the band play at that event with the moms, the dads, the loved ones, the significant others there, looking over their shoulder, watching the band perform was just tremendous. Just in the faces and listening to them and watching them listen to the band, you could see the pride in which they had with the fact that their loved ones are now in part of a bigger and better team and bigger organization that's really taking care of America. And that band that was over their shoulder added to that tremendously.
In addition to its many duties playing for graduations and ceremonies, the Silver Wings Band and its many small groups perform for the communities in the Wiregrass area.
One of our biggest events is Freedom Fest, and it's taken a number of iterations throughout the years. Some of those things have changed over the years, certainly have moved a lot from this, the idea of a concert band who comes out and plays marches and plays, traditional concert band literature to more popular groups.
And you see the pride in those soldiers that are up on stage and just the amount of skill and talent they have. It's phenomenal. And they come from all over America, not just the Wiregrass.
Once you get on that stage and you're performing for all those people, you realize every minute of work that went into this is absolutely worth it. So the actual performance of Freedom Fest, it's kind of a bittersweet moment. I mean, the smiles, the singing along, the screaming, the cheering. I mean, each song has its own message, its own meaning for being there.
They really do love the music, and it comes from the kids all the way up to the adults. They all enjoy that, and I think that that's one of the highlights of everything we do here on Post.
An unwavering dedication to our service members and a selfless service to our communities through music. These are the hallmarks of any Army band, values that have been embraced by generations of soldier musicians.
Shortly after I took command of the band, I was visited by CW4 retired James Choate. He commanded the Silver Wings Band from 1982 to 1986 and retired in the Wiregrass. At the time of his visit, he was the director of the Troy University Dothan Campus Community Band. As we sat and chatted, in the midst of old war stories, we crafted a plan for a joint concert involving our two bands. And this concert was to be Mr. Choate's last concert before he stepped down as director of the community band. We planned it all out, we had a great concert, and Mr. Choate retired for the second time. Less than 2 months later, Mr. Choate passed away. And while that was a great loss, I am encouraged by the memory of a man who spent his entire life in service to his country and to his community, whose last major event was a concert in which he got to stand in front of the last Army band he commanded as a soldier and the last community band he directed as a civilian. Like so many of the soldier musicians I've encountered in my decade of service, Chief Choate was a true patriot and a professional.
The professionalism that our band members give exudes across the entire Army. When you look at the profession of musical, being able to use a musical instrument, and it transcends into demonstrating the competence of our soldiers, whether they be aviators, or whether they be an artilleryman, or whether they be infantry. Those skill sets go through the pride in accomplishing a mission. That just demonstrates how well we are and what we get from our nation with the men and women that sign up to be members of our band, be the members of our combat teams.
I feel confident that I can attribute much of our success to the high level of skill and professionalism found in the generations of soldiers who've served in the 98th Band over the past several decades. But I would be remiss not to acknowledge the enormous level of support that we've received from organizations outside our own. We've been part of the 1st Aviation Brigade family since the early 70s and have received administrative and logistical support from a number of battalions over the years. Most recently, the 1st Battalion, 145th Aviation Regiment. And whenever we play a mission, we inevitably get the operational support of agencies like DPTMS, G3, Public Affairs, MWR, SGS, Protocol, and so many others. Without the substantial help we've received from these organizations and the partnerships we've maintained with them over the years, we simply would not have been as successful as we have been. It's really been truly a team effort.
We at the 98th would like to express our sincerest gratitude to the soldiers and civilians of Fort Rucker and the Wiregrass, both past and present, by sharing your lives with us and giving us the great honor of serving and inspiring generation after generation.